Can you unintentionally harm yourself with your portfolio? Unfortunately, surely you can. And in this video, I will give you the list of most common portfolio mistakes that you'd rather avoid. My name is Ines, and my channel is about UX design. Subscribe. Now, although there are projects and case study presentations mistakes that could be overall harmful for your career, none of them is an ultimate portfolio killer. But you have to be still cautious about them because you might reach a compound effect that is definitely harmful. Also, things like a bad-looking UI or mistakes in usability tests is not something I consider harmful mistakes. Those are mostly the indicators of your current level. So what I'm going to talk in this video could be avoided on any level of UX design proficiency. Let's go. The thing number one that can affect your job landing chances is the faked research in your portfolio. I have to confess, I also did this in my early portfolios because I used to work in agencies, and in agencies we did not have time or could not convince our clients to invest in research. Also, often our clients, they did not appreciate UX design that much, or they believe that they know everything that they supposed to be knowing to start on a task. When I decided to switch from working in agencies to going in-house, I had to figure out what to do with that. Unfortunately, and I'm not proud about that, but my first idea was to fake the research. And there are a lot of problems with that. First, if you are not really familiar, hands-on, how to do research, you will not be able to fake plausible numbers. And I did not know, for example, what number of people is okay to have on a survey. So I was telling numbers like I did a survey for 1,000 people, and each and every recruiter and hiring manager asked me how I was able to recruit so many people. And I did not know what to answer to this question, so I lowered the number. And then the question came in, like, how do I know that the number that I have, I don't remember which number I had there at the time, maybe 100, that it's enough? And that was again a challenging question for me because I had no idea. I've never done it. And now, being a hiring manager in a big tech company, I really smile at those times because it was clearly visible. And even though I was able at some point to fake some plausible numbers in my case studies, the fact that I've never done it came out on job interviews because there they asked me a lot of questions I could not answer. And yes, as a hiring manager, I can clearly see this as well right now. And to what conclusion do I come? It's actually quite okay if you are not familiar with certain types of research. We have a research team in our department, certain guidelines, different checks that we have to do before going to research. So it's not actually a problem, and I'm sure every person that could join our team, they will upskill in research in no time. But because I see that you are lying and you are trying to cover things that you don't know, I might come to a conclusion that you will be doing the same at the job. And this is what I absolutely want to avoid, because we all don't know something. There is always an area for improvement for every one of us. And I want a person that I'm working with looking directly into these improvement areas and admitting them, because only after admitting them they can improve on them. And of course, I don't want my colleague hiding something or lying me. For example, what if I ask them to do the research but they decided not to, and then will they be telling me that they did that? Because in this case it can be just harmful for the business, it's unreliable, it's unsustainable. So unfortunately, trying to fake research, you are not doing yourself a favor. I would prefer a shorter but clearer story about how a person went from a problem to a solution. And it's completely fine for me if the person says, we could not make a research on this project, but if we could, I would do this and this and that. But unfortunately, those were the circumstances, and this is how I overcame them. It could actually make a very interesting story. How did you operate without not knowing every fact about your users? And besides, there are research methods that you can execute without talking with your users directly. It's competitive analysis, secondary research, and things like that. So I would rather a candidate doing a deep dive into the competitive analysis and maybe some experiments and variations that they did, instead of just listening unplausible lies. The second way how you can harm your chances on landing a job is roughly the same as the first one, is the faked wireframes. And here I must also confess, because for many years I did not do any wireframes, again while working in agencies. The thing is that in an agency we were supposed to show shining, crisp work to our clients every time we interact with them, because clients, they are paying agencies not to be involved hands-on, and they are giving agencies a problem, and agency is like a black box that executes on this problem, somehow digests that, and gives a client a result. Of course, we did some wireframes just to agree on things between us in the agency team, but it's not the same work and it's not done on the same level like it is done in product teams. And also, let's not forget that in agencies we're working against hard deadlines, so cutting out on this phase of wireframing and like conceptual development of this is actually saving the agency time. So it's encouraged from everyone else, and this is what I followed myself. And then, when I wanted to transition from agencies to working in big tech companies, I bumped into this problem because I studied portfolios of other product designers at that time and figured out that they had this big area of like conceptualizing, making prototypes, making wireframes of different fidelity, but I did not. And then, I'm not proud of what I did, but that was the reality. I took my final designs, I made them black and white, I cut out all of the illustrations and photographs, and those were my wireframes. Again, back then I did not realize how it looks, but now being a hiring manager in big tech companies, I can tell you, I can guarantee you, we can see it clearly. And we don't even need to invite you on interviews to find this out, as with faked research sometimes, for example, because it's clearly visible. If you've ever done a proper product development, you know that your initial wireframes will never be even close to what you have in the final designs. And this is really hard to fake because it's hard to go backward once you already have a final solution. So actually, again, this comes to me seeing that a candidate telling a lie, which I don't really like because I am getting nervous if they are going to lie on the workplace, and this is what I would want to avoid. So I would rather see, again, a shorter, a clearer case study explaining me the limitations, explaining me how you get by with what you had and how you solve those challenges. It can actually also create a pretty compelling story, and if you are afraid that you will have nothing to show in your portfolio, then just double down on UI, make animations, show me how it works in action. This would be a typical agency-based case study, which is not a problem per se. Yes, you will need to balance your portfolio, you will need to show me that you can do product development as well, but if that already happened and you have the case study like you have it, it's better you don't lie about that. Then the third way how you can unintentionally harm your chances on landing a job is having projects in your portfolio that have no business value. What I mean by projects that have no business value is the UX challenges that sound like that. A dog sitting app, or a fitness app for moms. At the first glance, that sounds plausible. You see no problem in executing on the challenge like that. But unfortunately, because this is not a real business and you don't have users, you cannot build user experience. You can only build user interface. Because like by definition, to build user experience, you need to have users. You might say to me, yes, but I can reach out to people that I can consider my audience, and that's true. But because those people, they are never gonna use your app, they don't care about what you are showing them, they don't know what was there before, they will give you just nice feedback about the UI, that's it. Because they cannot associate themselves with using this product. This is not how businesses are built, and this is not how random people from the street is becoming customers and users. And there is this whole unique process on how you can transition strangers to being users that you cannot replicate by solving a UX challenge like that. So you're working with a cold audience, if you wish. It's not the same. And projects like that, they are mostly given on bootcamps. But it's not because they want to harm you or because they don't know how the industry works, but because taking this abstract high-level problem will allow you to try out all the steps in the double diamond, from conducting interviews, then making personas, and all the way until the very end where you build a coherent user interface. And this is okay, this is a nice way to try out the double diamond and to get to know all the stages, but it's not how we work, it's not how the industry is functioning. Because you are not doing user interviews, you are not building personas for each and every feature that you develop. That would be just too long. So if your portfolio just consists of the projects like that, as a hiring manager, I just see that you did not have enough exposure to the real world problems. And you are just not ready to join any team because you are not familiar with the friction that you will encounter. And maybe if I'm about to hire an intern and I have a lot of capacity in senior designers' calendars, I might consider this person being hired if the UI is on the good level. But let's be honest, it happens rarely because we just don't have time and the industry has changed. And if I could give you a real-world example of how it looks, that would be something like that. Imagine that you want to do a tattoo and you found a tattoo master whose works you really like. But there is a tiny problem. All the work that this master has done by now is done on the fake skin. So they never worked on a real person. Yes, they may be able to make you a tattoo, but would you want to risk that? You know that you will have to take a risk here. And yes, you will be probably paying less to this master, but honestly, most people would rather pay more to have a nicely done tattoo than to pay a master who just studied. And that works roughly the same in UX design. In most cases, I would rather prefer a person who did smaller projects, but with the real life friction. So making those projects while you are studying on a bootcamp is completely fine, but you will have to figure out how you can take them down from your portfolio in time and to replace them with projects that have business value. By the way, if you like this video and you want to receive more videos like that, give me thumbs up and hit the subscribe button down below. That's important for me and for YouTube algorithms. And we are moving on. The fourth way how you can unintentionally harm your career is by having projects for brands or companies with dubious reputation. I mean, sex industry, crypto, tobacco, things like that. The thing is that those companies, they are staying on the gray zone for many people. And although you might have a good career there, nice people around, competitive salary and things like that, and even projects that you might be having there, they make business sense and they are really great, you need to be extra careful about putting those projects in your portfolio. Because some companies, they might consider that your values might be different from the values that they have in their company. And that happens very, very often in big tech companies. Because literally in all big tech companies that I worked so far, those are two, we had the list of our corporate values. That might sound overly corporate, I understand that, but it was actually quite helpful in finding candidates. And when we were in doubts, every time we were forced or recommended to look at the list of values. And when I was hiring for the first time for a big tech company, I was at first really skeptical about those values, but turned out they are really helpful. They can end a debate about candidates. And usually those corporate values, they are about everything good against everything bad. So we usually have there things like, we want our candidates strive for sustainability. And then if you worked in tobacco industry, for example, how is that sustainable? You will have to come up with a story that will explain how it is better than it seems. And as I said in the beginning of the video, none of the points I'm mentioning here is a portfolio killer, but you will have to be extra cautious. And this is exactly what I meant. You will have to come up with a story, how you either take a critical position or you try to improve something in this industry because now nobody would do this if not you. Or maybe you will have to, as with the case with crypto startups, you will have to prove me that this is a crypto startup that really knew the customers and do all due diligence checks and no illegal activities is going on those platforms. But here it might be really hard to explain this in the case study because I might see the logotype of the company that I'm dubious about and I might not read further. So one of the strategies that you can also take is that you can take them down and present them on the interviews only. And here I want to make a final remark. If you for yourself, you don't see any problems in working in tobacco company and you don't really understand what I'm talking about, then stick to it. Because you probably anyway would not be happy working on a team that is suspicious about tobacco companies. For example, those might be people with completely different mindset, which you might not like as well. So companies calibrate candidates by values and you should probably do the same, but just be mindful about the consequences. And the last way how you can unintentionally harm your job landing chances, especially in big tech companies or tech startups, is by having projects in your portfolio that are only marketing websites. First, what do I mean by marketing websites? Is the landing pages or corporate websites that just represents the company and explain what the company is doing. Those are not products that you can use to receive a service. You can just receive there some information, maybe apply to something. And this is what I often see in junior UX designers' portfolios, because at the first glance, the distinction is really subtle. They are both websites, they are both made in Figma, and those projects are both using certain parts of the double diamond, like interviews, maybe usability tests and things like that. So why don't we do more marketing websites and then apply for a job on a team or on a product? So the confusion is very much understandable, but unfortunately they are same but different. And indeed, some jobs, like startup jobs, they will require from a candidate to be able to execute both the product and the marketing, because they could not hire two designers, for example. So if you are striving to find a job in a startup environment, this is actually an advantage, but it can be harmful for big tech companies and like medium-sized companies, because as a hiring manager, when I see the project like that in your portfolio, I might assume that you enjoy doing that, because marketing websites are often fun to do. They put a lot of emphasis on UI design, you can try different styles, and I understand why many people like doing them and find them entertaining, which is completely fine if you do so as well. But I cannot offer you the same entertainment at the job that I probably have. And because right now we have a lot of candidates to choose, I also want to ensure that we hire the candidate that knows exactly what the job will entail. I don't want to waste my time and the candidate's time to just find out that they want to do marketing websites together with product development. And I might not invite this person to an interview. This is as simple as that. The projects might be fantastic. The UI, I might like it very much. So it's not a mistake per se, but if you consider the context and your career goal, that might be harmful. Now let's sum it up. There are certain ways how you can unintentionally harm your portfolio. You might have projects where you did not do research or did not have such an extensive wireframing phase, and you might decide to fake it, which I do not recommend. Then you might have projects that don't have business value, or projects that are done for companies with dubious reputation, or projects that are simply marketing websites and could not fit the work that you will be doing as a product designer. I would recommend you checking your portfolio seriously in regards of having those points that I mentioned, because unfortunately all of them are harmful to the very core of your story, of your personal story that I want to know and I want to hear as a hiring manager. Because learning something is not a problem anyone could do that. But if you have a value that says to you that lying is okay, that might not match well with values that big tech companies have, and all of them are roughly the same. They are about good stuff and against bad things. And I can guarantee you that you want to come across as a reliable person that admits their development areas and does something about them. But if you are proud about your work in crypto startups and you believe that blockchain is the way to go, or you see no problems in working in tobacco or alcohol industry, then go for it. Go for your values and choose the companies based on your values as well. I know that when it feels like there are so little jobs right now on the market, we cannot be so picky, but eventually we need to find a job that will satisfy us and will allow us to grow. If you don't like to be overly corporate, then you will not be happy about that and you will lose those years while you're working there. Or you will have to drop out of this work, and that will create a point in your resume where all recruiters will say why you couldn't stay in this company. That could also be harmful, and ideally you don't want to have this. I believe in having a sustainable career, doing the things that you like. It's totally possible, but only when you have your values and you choose companies that align with your values. Early in my career, I did those mistakes when I joined companies that did not really match the way I see the things, and I was not happy about that eventually. I did not grow there. I regret the time that I spent there. It overall slowed me down. And yes, I had complex financial situations where I could not pick, and I just jumped into the very first client or the very first opportunity that I saw. But honestly, even now, I'm thinking that I could maybe sustain my lifestyle a bit longer and land a job that would fit me better. So it's up to you how you will deal with those points that I mentioned. I just want you to be informed and be conscious about them. I hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments what my next video should be about. And if you liked this video and you want to receive more videos like that, hit the subscribe button down below, and I see you next time.